Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome to full council on Wednesday, the 18th of December. And Emma, do you have apologies? I have. Cara has the apologies.
Thank you. We have apologies from councillors Butakofa, Dixon, Housden, Leith, Penfold, Punchard, Councillor J. Toy, Councillor K. Toy and Councillor Vickers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The minutes from the meeting on the 20th of November. Can we run through them for matters of accuracy? Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12. And thank you very much indeed, Emma, for producing them. That was really very kind of you. So we'll take them as approved. So someone would like to propose the minutes? Thank you. And second? Lovely. Thank you very much. Do we have any items of urgent business? Thank you, Cara. No? Do we have any declarations of interest, members? No? Okay. So now we have Chairman's communication, which are very brief this time. And the first, the one and only event, actually, I did have a little operation which rather got in the way of other things, was the British Legion in Blakeney centenary celebration in 24. That's pretty amazing because the British Legion wasn't founded till 1923. So this was pretty notable achievement, and it was very well attended. So that was nice. And then it just leaves me to, we had the Christmas carols, of course, at lunchtime, which were brilliant. Thank you very much indeed for producing these photographs so quickly. And I thought it was absolutely lovely to have the Salvation Army there, and we raised £160 for them, which is fantastic. And season's greetings, everybody. Happy holidays, I like to say, with 2 L's. That's I lived in America for a bit, I'm afraid, so I did rather get into that habit. So I just wanted to say a word or two. As we approach the conclusion of another year, I wish to extend my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to all the staff and councillors for their dedication and hard work. This year has presented us with both challenges and triumphs, and it is the steadfast commitment and resilience of you all that ensures the residents and visitors to North Norfolk are served in the exemplary manner they deserve. The holiday season affords a moment for reflection and appreciation. As we celebrate this festive time, I encourage you to take the time to relax, rejuvenate, and cherish the company of your loved ones. Thank you for your continued dedication and for being an integral part of our community. I look forward to the achievements we will accomplish together in the coming year. Thanks also to everyone who purchased a raffle ticket or Pick Your Patch Square. A massive £555 has been raised already for my dementia charities. For those who didn't purchase a ticket, the traditional Christmas pudding is here for any other donations, and please give generously to support those amazing local dementia groups. So I'm wishing you and your families a Merry Christmas and a peaceful and healthy New Year. Lovely. So now, leaders' announcements.
Thank you. So attention is clearly now on devolution and the potential for reorganisation at this time. We have realigned to give these discussions with other councils in Norfolk and Suffolk the sufficient time required. The white paper published earlier this week will, of course, generate lots of questions for you as elected representatives. Indeed, there are many questions that remain unanswered as a result of the white paper. However, I did want to try and emphasise and further reassure all staff that whatever the outcomes, there is absolutely still going to be a requirement for your skills and expertise. The very same community, residents, businesses we serve with numerous different services across the organisation will still exist, and you at the coalface will still very much be required if there are to be no significant reductions in services. And you're all doing a fantastic job here, so please continue to do what you are doing. And also to all councillors across political lines. You're of course all working very hard to represent your towns and villages and to progress council objectives. And that does not change now as a result of these considerations taking place at a national scale. It is, as they say, business as usual. You will likely have all seen that I have expressed various concerns about the government agenda, both before and after the publication of the white paper. Those concerns remain, and if anything, have hardened in recent days. Without the assurances we need that our small towns won't be left behind, without the reassurance that significant elements of our tourism economy and offer to visitors is not at some risk, and without reassurance about how the work of local government on the coast will continue, both in terms of defences and adaptation to change, it's hard to see many in North Norfolk supporting the vision as currently described. Because as we've seen, no mention at all of coast in the white paper, and really very, I'd say, a narrow understanding of the role played currently by district councils in terms of tourism, and in a much wider geography, do the smaller towns appear on the radar at all, or to a greater or lesser extent, do the focuses of work, some of which are discretionary, get kicked out from under the umbrella, also covering social care, children's services, police, fire, housing, transport, and much more. We've also yet to see a clear vision from the government on social care, children's services, and we know police reform is coming in some form or fashion with white papers to be published at a later date. And there are suggestions the mayor will play a significant strategic role in health in addition. So it's hard to see yet how all of these services that we do now sit comfortably alongside each other. We will, of course, be seeking to positively get those reassurances that we need in North Norfolk in the coming weeks and months. And I do believe we have a good common understanding between district leaders across Norfolk and Suffolk, despite the eclectic mix of politics, which certainly hasn't been a feature of any discussion. So I think we're at a good starting point on that front. And I hope we all recognise that there is a very good potential around a mayoral combined authority in terms of improving transport and housing and development in North Norfolk and wider economy overall, absolutely. But clearly there's a lot of detail to emerge, and we will be keeping members informed, but it's important that we redouble efforts now to secure the local economy and future and prosperity of our communities and infrastructure. So it's of the utmost importance now that councillors work together to achieve that as best as we can. Lastly, I would like to wish everyone in the organisation a Merry Christmas and thank you all for your achievements and many contributions throughout the year. We've continued to strive forward on many fronts together and despite many challenges. And colleagues, I can't claim I don't want a bit of a break from you now, and I've been wanting that for some time. But equally, I do look forward very much to getting back to work together with you all in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Fredericks wanted to add a quick word.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Good evening, officers. I was honoured to take part in the celebrations of 130 years of women being allowed to stand for District Council. The DCN event last week was held in Westminster and celebrated all those women who proudly fought for the right to stand and all those who fought to give us the vote. We wanted to highlight that even today, only 37% of district councillors are women. A woman has to be asked on average 5 times before she agrees to be put on the ballot paper. We don't wake up and go, yeah, I'm looking around me and we're all going, yeah, that's absolutely true. This demonstrates that women do not put themselves forward as candidates. And I think we need to ask why that is. What are the barriers for women to stand for election? Perhaps it's family commitments, children or caring responsibilities for elderly relatives. Money that came up as a factor if their income is the only income that supports that household. And also believing that only a certain gender or section of society would be the appropriate people to stand for government. Or maybe we just don't ask her. Maybe we just don't actually reach out to enough women to stand. So we need local and national governments to reflect our local communities. How can we represent our residents fully without every possible viewpoint being heard? So this year, please ask women to stand for election. Please ask them to think about it, plant a seed and show that this is the place for women to have a safe platform to represent their communities. Everyone in this chamber, we stand on the shoulders of giants in this chamber. Those who've gone before us and made a difference to the lives of the residents that we serve. So this Christmas, perhaps think about the person who persuaded you or inspired you to stand, whatever gender you are, and perhaps let them know how you're doing, how you're getting on, and maybe even thank them for their belief in you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any public questions? No. Okay, now we move on to the portfolio reports. So we have 30 minutes for questions. So who would like to speak? Councillor Fitzpatrick?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's a question for the leader, and perhaps you might want to pass it on to someone else. Recently, we welcomed the leader of the council and the chief executive officer to Walsingham, which is, of course, the oldest tourism destination in Norfolk, which has been welcoming visitors for over 900 years. And the only facilities provided in that area by this council, which claims to support business and tourism, is one set of public lavatories, which of course are under threat along with others in the district. So my question is this: to the leader, you heard the palpable anger that came across from the stakeholders who attended the meeting about the withdrawal of the facilities with no real alternative apart from asking a private company to take them on. And this is something that will affect the over 320,000 visitors a year, a large percentage of whom are elderly and disabled. Taking this into account, will you now tell me what alternatives you have for making the savings to keep both these lavatories and other ones threatened in the districts are over? And considering that your group has a member who made a big play of being the Loo Lady of Norfolk and supporting the need for changing places and public lavatories across the district, will you tell us what savings you can make, but also give an undertaking that these will be taken off the threatened list? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So certainly it was never our stated intention to close the toilet facility at Walsingham. That's obviously not the outcome that we want to see. Certainly recognise its value, and it's, you know, such a wonderful and interesting village, Walsingham, and clearly the provision of public toilet facilities is important. You know the pressure we're under. And, you know, it's not necessarily strictly within our control. We've, you know, got often over 60 families in temporary accommodation. I think the numbers of children in temporary accommodation reached over 80 at one point last week. These are very significant costs. In terms of the discussions about Walsingham, we are in discussion with a number of, well, at least two organisations, and trying to find another way of saving a proportion of money, which will hopefully cover the cost of that facility. That's really all I can say publicly at the moment, but you will obviously be kept up to date, Tom, in due course as we progress further through that discussion. Obviously, in terms of other public toilet facilities, similar discussions are taking place and due to commence in terms of Stalham, but certainly still the stated intention in terms of West Runton as well. And we've had meetings with representatives of Potter Heigham, and recently announced the transfer to the freehold owners of the facility at Hickling Stade, which is a successful outcome, and one, obviously we would want to try and replicate. Obviously, clearly, we don't want to be in this position in terms of removing any discretionary service or indeed see over any service reduction, but the financial pressures, indeed ourselves and the rest of the local government sector, are indeed such, in terms of our own, in terms of the housing authorities, the pressure is known, but certainly elsewhere in the sector around social care, etc. So it's not just ourselves. Neighbouring authorities are dealing with the very same thing, the very same pressures, and indeed, to a greater or lesser extent, have similar numbers or greater in temporary accommodation as well. And that is the leading cause of the financial stress or strain upon our budget.
Have you got a follow-up?
Yeah, very quickly. Yeah, I understand the financial constraints, but yet in the budget, there are proposals to borrow money, capital costs to meet works, which means that actually there'll be a year-on-year cost of repayment. So perhaps that should be looked at, because I think the burdens are falling disproportionately across the district, and that's one of the problems.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not sure if there was a question there, but obviously we've got to consider our capital investments very carefully, particularly in light of the current considerations. So that's east to west, and I hope we can have a very positive conversation with all members of the council on those points. Repeating what I've said, Tom, clearly we don't want to see that facility closed. That's definitely not the outcome we want to reach in Walsingham at all. We really do recognise its importance. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good evening, everybody. I have a question to Councillor Blaithwaite, please. I see the leader is now reporting on coastal issues. Does this mean that since your appointment as chairman of the Broads Authority, you no longer have time to focus on the coast, bearing in mind we have the most dynamic coast in Northern Europe?
Yes.
That's right. Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Fitch-Tillett. I'm glad to say that I can still do my job for Coast, as well as being the chair of the Broads Authority. I think that's amply illustrated by the work we've been doing with Coastwise, the work we've been doing in Cromer and Munsley, and other works that are on stream to go ahead, hopefully in the near future. So I would say that I'm quite happy and content that I'm struggling on quite manfully, and have had no complaints as yet. Thank you.
Answer your questions.
Yes, I'm interested to see that you're struggling. Perhaps that's why you haven't been to the Trimmingham subcommittee meetings that we have been holding about twice
Okay.
monthly.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Heinrich.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
I'd like to come back actually.
Yeah.
I don't think it's up to members of the council to be casting those sort of aspersions, those sort of judgments in terms of members' diaries across the council. What I would say for my colleague, Councillor Blathwaite, he probably has the busiest diary of us all in terms of number of those meetings. So I dare say if he was not at Trimmingham, he was probably at another meeting related to water somewhere. And, you know, we're striving forward in North Norfolk in terms of this area of work, both the Coastwise initiative, but also the work that's you know really been so well received in Cromer and Munsey, and we'll continue to do that as we approach the next challenges too. So you know, apologies that you can't be everywhere. That goes the same for me, but I think it's acceptable that members do make a decision on where they put their time. Thank you.
Just to say that was the only of the Coastwise meetings that I didn't attend. And I was in another meeting at that time, and it was to do with water.
Thank you very much. Councillor Heinrich, can I remind people this is questions, not statements? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, question for Councillor Varley. Are you able to provide any details regarding the benefits accruing at Victory Swim and Fitness Centre since the completion of the solar array? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heinrich. That's a fantastic question. It's been a fantastic project, and I'm glad to see that that has now been completed. And my thanks, of course, go to all the officers involved and our contractor, Core Energy. This project has been completed quite quickly and efficiently. Really, this project signifies that we are still tackling our assets and are committed to our net zero target by 2030. Leisure centres are one of our biggest carbon emitters, so rightly so that we are tackling those facilities, and this project will ensure that green energy is being pumped into the Victory Swim and Fitness Centre. One little detail I do want to update on members, though it's really important that I update you on this, is the panels are actually different from the original spec. These new panels which are on the roof actually offer increased or optimal energy generation. So the details for the original spec was an estimated production of 188,000 kilowatts of energy. Madam Chairman, that will only be increased now because of these increased spec of panels. So just to really sum up, Madam Chairman, this council has not just completed this project on budget. This council has not just completed this project on time, but Madam Chairman, this council has ensured that this project is already overperforming. Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Paul?
It does, Madam Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good answer. Councillor Bayes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On that theme, Councillor Varley. Councillor Taylor and I represented or approached by Stalham Baptist Church in Stalham, who do an absolute sterling job for our community. Facing increased rising costs in electricity, the church applied for grants funding for installing new solar panels on its roof, partly to offset the costs and to further our net zero agenda in the town. The biggest obstacle to the development came from the objections from the council's conservation officer, which seems to uphold the application and place the project at risk and the funding that had already been guaranteed. Does Councillor Varley agree with me that the application of this nature should be considered with greater weighting towards net zero, especially given Stalham is North Norfolk's net zero community?
I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to answer the question for Adam, because I'm aware of the planning application. I don't think Adam was. So certainly I can state on behalf of me, and I'm sure Adam, that certainly supportive of the initiative there at Stalham Baptist Church. They do an awful lot for the community there in Stalham, as I've observed many times before. Clearly every statutory consultee has a right, sometimes a responsibility to respond to the planning applications, and in this instance there were constraints over conservation heritage, and they needed to be discussed. But it's not up to councillors to prevent those professional observations being made. Certainly, that doesn't stop ourselves as individuals supporting them. So really hoping for that successful outcome in the long term to make that building more sustainable and to secure the ongoing work of the Baptist Church in Stalham for all that they do. Thank you.
Come back in.
Thank you, Councillor Adams, for that comment. Obviously, I completely agree and concur with that. It is important that it goes through the right and duly planning process, and of course, we must maintain that consultees have the right to give proactive comments. I wasn't aware of this application. There are many fantastic applications like this going across the district, and if the local members have concerns, I'm more than happy to have a look at this, and don't feel that you need to wait for a full council meeting to extend that offer. Thank you.
I'm looking on the public file, and it does say that the application was approved with a decision notice issued on the 12th of November. As the leader of the council says, the determination or consideration of any planning application involves a number of statutory consultees, and they will present their technical and professional experience. It is for the local authority in its capacity as the planning authority to exercise its right as the decision maker, either under delegation or through the development committee. But it would appear that the application was approved on the 12th of November.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I was going to ask my question tonight to Councillor John Toy, but instead I'll direct it towards Councillor Adams as the leader. I'm growing more and more concerned that we are now facing the fallout from the woeful Labour budget. With confidence to invest dipping 2 consecutive months of negative GDP growth and increased burdens on business owners through national insurance rises, is he concerned that economic growth and resilience in North Norfolk will suffer? And if so, does he have any plans to help unlock additional local support for our business owners?
Thank you, Matthew. Councillor Taylor, I should say. I keep calling people by their first names. I apologise for that. I would say I share your concerns. I've certainly been in touch with different sectors already in terms of the picture that is emerging. Leaving aside ourselves as one element of that, and the trickle down impact, the strain on public services can have on the economy as well, and all the necessary investments that we make. Clearly, in my own area, we've got a lot of hospitality. We've seen as well Sheringham Little Theatre and Cromer Pier raised in Parliament recently in terms of the impact on theatres and the arts. So there's a consideration there, but of course across the whole of the economy. So certainly really concerned about the national insurance increases and the impacts that will have, and don't want to see a sort of vacuum where business is disappearing, employment hours are reducing, etc. I think North Norfolk has shown in recent times we've sort of bucked the trend. The evidence of that is the retained business rates, and obviously I'm conscious of that picture. We obviously really want to do everything we can to retain that good position of business rates growth. So, you know, it's certainly encouraging to see some of the planning applications that have come forward in recent times for new businesses, and we need to do everything we can to foster that relationship with, as John would say if he was here, our key accounts, and help them expand. There's been some really encouraging conversations taking place with a number of both high profile and you know, small independent businesses, and that's where a lot of our work will be. But clearly, you know, as well on a wider strategic level, we have a role to play. We've obviously now as well recently we've just learned about our Shared Prosperity Fund allocation for the year, and you know, some of us were quite critical of the way shared prosperity funding emerged. It was sort of seen as the replacement EU funding, etc., and it took a long while to emerge. But I think everyone should recognise the value of that funding and what it can achieve. So clearly, there's some considerations we will want to make in terms of the retained business rates, Shared Prosperity Fund, alongside yourself as a local member as well in one of our towns that has, you know, a decent economic base. So I think there's lots of work we can do at every level, but it's a changing picture.
Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is for Councillor Fredericks. Will the housing strategy team continue to find ways to increase our supply of temporary accommodation? I know we've been amazing at pulling rabbits out of hats for a very long time, but do you feel this will continue? And also with the sourcing of rural exception sites, will this continue hopefully to keep coming on stream, because it does seem to be a very good way of keeping the situation of the homeless at bay a bit?
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Yes is the answer. I want to share some really encouraging news to you, and it probably doesn't sound really encouraging, but it is. So we have 81 children in temporary accommodation at the moment. I can categorically tell you that none of those children are in nightly paid bed and breakfast. They're in our own accommodation, and they're also in self-contained accommodation. So they're not at risk of other people or perpetrators. And, you know, I want to do a little happy dance about that they're safe. But I also realise that I need to we are looking at 3 different alternatives to dramatically increase our temporary accommodation, but that will always depend on grant funding, which we're only finding out about now. So yes, they will. I looked at the affordable housing pipeline today, and again, it was a really lovely Christmas present, because we are bringing forward a lot more affordable homes next year and the year after. So we are definitely going in the right direction. I would obviously increase our temporary accommodation 3-fold if I had the money, and I'm looking at Councillor Shires. But yes, we are well on track to deliver more affordable homes in the next 24 months. And I want to thank communities as well, because they've obviously listened to me saying, look, we need more affordable homes for people that actually live and work in North Norfolk. And there's been a lot less objections from communities. They understand that people need to live where they work, where they've grown up. Communities need to live, they need to survive. And if that community dies with the elderly people that have retired there, then what's the future hold? Again, I'm really striving to make sure that we have enough temporary accommodation and enough affordable homes before the apparent reorganisation of local government, because we all care about our residents. We want to make sure that they're okay before any changes happen. So I will be striving even harder to find land and to find opportunities for for affordable homes. And I'd encourage you to do that too. So thank you, Councillor Wall.
Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is for the leader, please. This afternoon, we had a constructive conversation about devolution along with the chief executive, and I think it's fair to say that at the moment we don't know what we don't know. However, whatever we can be probably sure that at some point in the future, this council will be replaced by another authority. What impacts do you anticipate this might have, for example, on the budget and systems procurement in terms of the way your potential change of thinking between now and then? Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher Christian. Yeah, I would agree. We've had positive conversations previously to the meeting, but also on other occasions about this situation, and hope that continues. And as I indicated, we're having good discussions with the other district, borough, and city leaders across Norfolk and Suffolk as well. Great respect for them all. Great respect for the leader at Yarmouth, for instance. Obviously they've got a visitor economy as well. We share services with Kingston, Breckland, and I think that's to the benefit of everyone. So in terms of the impacts, I think I've addressed a lot of this in my introductory statement. And I'm concerned about three core elements. Again, briefly, the coast, not mentioned, I think an oversight, and we'll obviously be seeking reassurances from DEFRA in respect of that, in respect of our smaller towns. But actually, I think even Fakenham and Cromer, to what extent do they even appear on the radar when you're dealing with a much wider geographic area, and our tourism infrastructure? So I think the adjustment of our position, and obviously we do need to consider our plans moving forward. I'd say for your own ward, or at least the locality, Christopher, it's of vital importance we see the delivery of the Fakenham Leisure Centre, and that's a really important outcome, and shoring up our assets, our towns, our communities, and the infrastructure that we've successfully run. Sorry to go back to form, but Cromer Pier is an element of that as well, where we've achieved so much in recent years in terms of already securing that asset structurally. 2026, it will be 125 years old, and obviously we want to, as part of our legacy. I should say we didn't build it in the first place. It was the Cromer Protection Commissioners who handed over to the Urban District Council and then to ourselves. And that's one very good example of something we need to obviously secure. It's a big sort of cog in the economic circle in terms of tourism in North Norfolk, but as well, we need to look east, and to locations such as Stalham and Hoverton, to establish what we can do to shore up positions, shore up our assets, and hand over the chance of prosperity and longevity, really for every consideration as best as we can with the resources that we have. So clearly lots of quite dynamic discussions, and we're going to have to be very agile. So really welcome the potential of cooperation really across the council chamber to achieve that, and certainly look forward to continuing those discussions with you. Thank you.
Your question, Councillor Vardy.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And this is a question for Councillor Varley. 3 years ago, or round about, this council pledged to plant in North Norfolk 110,000 trees to lock up carbon and deliver other ecological and biodiversity and environmental benefits. And I applaud this approach. I've always done that kind of thing. Norfolk County Council has planted around about 700,000 trees, and have a policy now of, sorry, yeah, I said around, as a policy to inspect, review and replace where appropriate trees that have failed. Does this council have a similar strategy and the budget to accompany it? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Vardy. I would question whether it was around 700,000 trees. And I think Norfolk County Council might need to review some of the trees.
Sorry,
they've
Madam
already
Chairman, that
planted.
wasn't the question.
But to answer your question, it was stated within the document when we did our successful 110,000 tree planting project that it was actually for those people who planted the trees on their land to facilitate the planting and the aftercare of those trees, and that stands today. Thank you.
Okay, got 2 minutes. Eric. Councillor
Thank you. It won't take that long. So what you're saying, in essence, is that this council hasn't actually purchased and planted trees themselves. They're facilitated and encouraged that to be done elsewhere, because otherwise you would have some responsibility for the trees you've actually planted. And what you're saying that isn't the case.
We have ensured and facilitated a very successful tree planting project, and it was for communities and individuals to ensure the longevity of those trees, and those trees are thriving. And yes, it does ensure many positive things for our communities in North Norfolk. Trees suck in the carbon, but they're also fantastic in regards of climate adaptation as well. And we are seeing some very hot, scorching summer. So that ensures climate adaptation there.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the portfolio questions. Thank you very much, everybody. Item 9, recommendations from Cabinet. Councillor Adams, did you want to?
In terms of
Discuss
the
the recommendations from
cabinet
Cabinet.
recommendations, really is read, and happy to propose and endorse them. Thank you.
Okay. And then we move on to the recommendations from the overview and scrutiny. Sorry, ma'am.
I just need to make a comment on the recommendation on fees and charges. And it's quite a simple comment. It was brought to my attention earlier today that the documents online had omitted some of the fees and charges, but this was rectified. Nothing has changed since the paper went through overview and scrutiny committee or cabinet, but I do need to just make one addition, which was verbalised at the most recent meeting, and that is in relation to legal advice and services. And thank you to Emma for providing me the exact wording for what we discussed at the meeting. So the item to be added to the fees and charges is the provision of legal advice and services to third-party public sector organisations, and this will be at a solicitor's hourly rate and is discretionary, set by the district.
Thank you for that clarification, but I think we're debating it later on, but thank you for pointing that out. So now we move on to the recommendations from Overview and Scrutiny Committee, but as we unfortunately have neither the chair or the vice chair here, we propose to defer this to the next meeting. Is everyone content with that? Yeah. Thank you very much. So now we move on to budget monitoring. Item 12. No, sorry, item 11, programme of meetings. Tim, is that?
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, happy really to endorse the programme here, and obviously members have been given the opportunity to raise any comments they had at an earlier stage. So propose we accept the recommendations and thank officers for putting this together. Thank you.
Okay, is everyone content to go to a vote on that? Yes? Proposer? Seconder? Thank you very much. Emma, did you get that? Lovely. So those in favour? Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. And now we move on to item 12, budget monitoring. So Councillor Shaz,
Thank you,
Heard from
Madam
you for
Chair.
2 seconds.
I know, I'm so sorry. You'll hear a lot from me
Like to hear
over
from
the
you
coming
again.
months, and I'm incredibly sorry for that as we get deeper into the budget setting process. So this paper has been to Cabinet and has been to Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and there are members present who will have heard this. They'll be hearing this for the third time, so please accept my apologies. And that pattern will be repeated until we set the budget in February. The position hasn't changed since I presented at Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Last, I just want to draw attention to recommendation 4, which is the increase to the staffing of the licensing team, and that is due to the actual work that they're undertaking, so that'll be paid for through the licensing income. So congratulations to that team. The other point that I wanted to note was relating to the collector's cabin roof and my commitment that the money wouldn't be spent until we've ensured best value for money for this council. And that is pending the additional quotes that were requested.
Do we have any questions from anybody? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question which I think is best directed towards Councillor Varley. So on the Cabinet agenda, item 13 for the budget monitoring, it says that full council approval to spend an extra £22,000 on LED lighting in the Cromer office. There is already an existing capital programme budget of 172,000, of which 83,000 has been spent, leaving 89,000 plus this additional extra 22,000, which will total £111,000 to spend if this addition is approved. Can Councillor Varley please tell me the revenue savings that this will create per year, the carbon savings that this will create per year, and how they will be evidenced and audited moving forwards?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. Of course, you can't expect me to walk around with information like that in my pockets. Of course, there will be data for that, and I will get it to you duly via a written response. Thank you.
If I may just come back on that, Madam Chair. Yes, I will come back on that. If I will, I mean, that is a pretty serious piece of business that we're working on tonight. So I'd have expected some more information on that. I think if we're being asked to spend more money in a very challenging financial position, we should have that information. We should know that information so we can fairly vote on things and make sure that our residents and the taxpayers of North Norfolk are getting the best possible deal. Thank you.
Councillor Shahs, did you want to come in?
Yes. If my memory serves me correctly, the question was asked over in Scrutiny Committee. I may be wrong. There are many meetings at the moment where we're discussing similar things. And Officer Stankley had agreed to provide a response as to revenue savings through the LED project for the offices. So I'm not aware. I don't believe that I'm very certain that I haven't had that response. I'm not sure if that's been given to the committee yet. But don't worry, Councillor Taylor, we do have eyes on it.
If I may just come back once more, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Shires, for that update. That is very useful to know. But personally, I would not feel comfortable voting on something unless I know that it's got absolute maximum value for money for this council, what that carbon reduction will be. I mean, as I just said, we are facing a severe financial position, and spending another £22,000 on something which, by the sounds of it, no one knows actually if that needs to be done. I think we need that information before we vote on something. That's just my point of view. But yeah.
Councillor Shahs, do you want to come back on that? I mean, do we need to change the wording, for example, on that recommendation 5?
I understand Councillor Taylor's discomfort, so to speak. We could caveat that if you would so wish, but we do have a net zero commitment also. So whilst everything that comes out of my mouth over the previous months and the coming months is all about revenue and income, we do have to also make sure we align with our net zero commitment. So I'm not uncomfortable with it. I wouldn't be proposing it if I was uncomfortable with it. And it didn't feel like there was discomfort when we took it to Overview and Scrutiny Committee either.
Councillor Taylor, are you proposing an alternative wording for that?
Well, to be honest, I'm not going to vote for something unless I've got all the information, because, you know, if we, I'm sure, and I completely accept this council's responsibility to hit its net zero targets. I mean, Stalham is our net zero community. You know, huge amount of work has been undertaken in our ward, in our town, to help reach this target across the district. But personally, I cannot vote on something unless I know what the ramifications of that decision will be. You know, even with a caveat, frankly, it cannot be net zero at any cost. You know, in the financial position that we are in as a council, we need to know these numbers before we press ahead.
Thank you very much. We'll just vote on the proposal as it is. We won't amend it. Councillor Cushing?
Thank you, Angela. I've got a couple of questions, if I may, for Councillor Shire. It's actually on the body of the report. So if we could go to page number 80, section 4.4, talks about borrowing interest in there. And it mentions internal borrowing, and obviously it makes clear in the following paragraph that anything that is internally borrowed as to at some point, we have to go to the external markets and borrow that money at whatever interest rates we have. Can you, it mentions down there that we have £5 million for the reef and £3 million for refuse freighters. Is that actually the amount of money that we have borrowed so far? If you can confirm that. Also, can you give us an idea of how much, an indication of how much money this council will look to internally borrow during this financial year?
That's a really great question. And in order to honestly answer that to the best of my ability, I'll have to give you a written response on the exact figures for that.
Okay, that's a little bit disappointing. I would have actually, knowing as I do, I thought that might be information you'd have to your hands. Anyway, if I can have another bite at the cherry of a different question, please. If we go to page 83 and section 1.6, it says this council's current reserve position is at Appendix D. Well, in the theme of the season, oh no, it isn't. So perhaps you could give me an idea, please, of the current position of how much we have in the General Reserve Fund and how much we have in the Earmarked Reserve Fund.
Yeah, fantastic. You'll have to give me some moments to pull that up because it's not in my pack here. But in order to respond to what you said previously, you have got my contact details, Councillor Cushing, and at any point, you know that I'm completely open to provide information. So whilst I appreciate the public arena that full council is, if you truly do want information given to you at a moment's notice, then I would appreciate you to contact me beforehand. I will have to look back in my papers to find the exact figure for you, but it would have been presented to you at both Cabinet and Overview and Scrutiny Committee.
Well, thank you. I mean, there are questions, I think, which not just my benefit. I think those are answers to questions which I think would benefit all councillors. That's why they asked in full council. So, but anyway, I will await your written response.
Councillor Fredericks.
Thank you, Chair. We publish the agenda and we publish the reports for exactly these purposes because we'd like to understand what you'd want to know, and as Councillor Shire says, our contact details are on there. We're open and transparent. If it is a technical question, then please contact us beforehand and get the answer, or at least give us a bit of warning so we could bring that to you. I understand that this is a political arena, but I hope that all members read the pack before they come and before the event of full council, so we can actually answer those questions in full for you.
Thank you.
If I may I come back on just on that? I have to say, actually, it wasn't actually asked as a trick question. I did generally believe that sort of, it's quite high level information. I thought that might be something you might have to hand. Actually, it's not some obscure figure buried in the appendices of the council. So that's why it was asked. But it is obviously a key element of the budget going forward next year. The last Conservative administration, there was no borrowing at all. Now we have a substantial amount of borrowing, and the key point of that is it has to be replaced by external borrowing, which is a real cost in terms of interest payments for this council or whatever comes after. So that's why it is asked.
Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, and I will say at the outset, I'm actually going to avail myself of the right as an elected district councillor to ask questions in public, because that's the whole point of these meetings, to my mind. But on page 78, section 213, resources, it's a bit of a sorry story, isn't it? Overspend due to employee costs, due maternity cover, additional training and recruitment costs. Overspend on supplies due to having agency and locum staff, income £811,000 shortfall. One of them is not extending the Meadow car park, so the anticipated additional income of 79k will not be achieved, but we're told it's being done. The work's going to be done somewhere else. How much is that going to bring in? Where's the work being done? I think that should be in these papers. Work at the Rocket House. I almost hesitate to sort of mention that particular money pit, but the RNLI are moving out of the duration of the work. The council won't receive any contribution to service charge. NLI, so that'd be a 36,000 loss in income over the year. Given the huge amount of money being spent in that, I hope that any new lease will actually be a proper lease with full repairing and insuring costs that any other commercial organisation would do, and that the tenants bear the cost of it, not the landlord. And also voids in the industrial unit North Walsham, a full year's income of £18,000. Those units were built and we're told there was a huge demand for them, and now it's a year. Will it be 2 years? That's a lot of money. And it makes me wonder, is there really a grip on the income and expenditure? And that's just a snapshot. Extrapolate that to the wider thing, and it doesn't leave me much confidence the finance has been handled well.
Let me begin by stating that any member of our staff who is currently on maternity leave, I would like to wish you the best while you're on maternity leave. As much as you may like to think that most of these things are planned, we don't have staff which actively plan when they're going to go on to maternity leave. And that's not something that I think we're going to start quizzing our staff members on, because I think that we would find ourselves in quite a difficult situation in terms of breaches of the Equality Act. So to our female members of staff that are off work due to maternity leave, we look forward to welcoming your little ones into the building. As I've been through these figures multiple times, this is the second of these monitoring reports that we've had. We're fully aware of the reasons that we have had agency staff. We have sat multiple times in meetings where we've talked about the difficulties that finance staff have been under when we have struggled to recruit in those areas. So I think that that's slightly unfair to then go and attack the finance staff who are doing quite a fantastic position. Your questions over the handling of finances, again, to the staff of this council who are working exceptionally hard under very difficult circumstances, who have risen to the challenge time and time again when we have asked them to, please know that you are completely valued in everything that you're doing. But as we look to the financial settlement, I can't say that the government completely hears our calls in local government finance. And sadly, I wish I had better news for you today in terms of the local government settlement.
Yeah, if I could just come back on some of those points, because that's not what I said at all. I don't think anyone could ever accuse me of attacking the staff in this council. No, you know, maternity leave, sick leave, compassionate leave, that's something that should be built into the budget. And I've no problem with the officers. The officers are doing their job, and I've never had any complaint with the officers in this council. No, actually, what I'm saying is the people that don't have a grip on it is the administration, not the officers. And it's the administration should be directing the officers. This is not an officer. No council should be run by, should be officer-led. They should be councillor-led. And the lead here is failing to handle the finance of this council properly. And that's no reflection whatsoever in the office of this council. Thank you.
Councillor Adams, do you want to come back in?
Well, I just think we're getting into a lot of red herrings here, really, because clearly, you know, it's not really the utmost consideration in terms of maternity leave. And as going back really to what I was saying earlier on, the significant financial pressure upon this council is in terms of the costs of nightly paid temporary accommodation. And that is a factor that is shared by most of the district, county, city and borough councils, in fact. So, you know, it's fair to raise these points. You're entitled to do that in this setting. But I would say to a great extent they are red herrings, because it's not really attributable to the significant pressures that obviously we are under. And that, you know, just to I suppose highlight the point that staff and the administration have been doing a lot of work to actually reduce costs and save money in year, and that process has been successful in many respects, and obviously striving to find many efficiencies in order to meet that pressure again, which is overwhelmingly the cost of temporary accommodation. Thank you.
Does anyone have any other further questions on the recommendations? Councillor Bayes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This one's sort of item 2, either Councillor Shires or Councillor Ringer. I do note that there is some information provided in terms of increased applications to support this post. But I would expect in the current climate of funding and budgets that this information would be more robust. Has there been a robust or detailed business case showing projected income against the justification of this additional post? And is this post a temporary post? And has there been any consideration of the use of a vacant post, so not to increase the additional manpower for this council?
Just to clarify, that's item 4. Is it in the about?
Sorry, item 4.
Item 4. Thank you very much. Adams?
I mean, I'll start off perhaps with that one. Revenue that comes in from licensing applications can only be used for license. It's not a slush fund. So if we're bringing in extra money because we're processing more applications, then the money that we bring in has got to pay for the staff to process those applications. As simple as that. It's just meeting demand. So it can't come out of any other pot of money or replace another member of staff in another area, because it's not like for like. I hope that clarifies that, but we can't use the extra revenue that comes in for something else. It has to be used to fund the processing of the license. It's not a profit-making piece of work that we do. It's something that we recoup costs for. If we have got extra demand, then we need to adequately staff that.
I accept that. What I'm concerned about is, has this been robustly costed in terms of what income will that additional post, how much will the applications bring in to justify that post?
I don't have those figures to hand, but I'll be happy to explore that if you'd like. But we wouldn't be employing somebody additionally in this unless it was recouping its costs.
Councillor Cushing.
Thank you. Just one final question, if I may, on item recommendation number 7. I didn't actually catch quite what Councillor Shires said when I think you mentioned it in your introduction, something that we raised earlier about the £30,000. Did you say that we haven't yet got a quote for a potential alternative to a thatched roof?
Yes, that's exactly what I said.
Okay, if there are no further questions, shall we proceed to the vote? Now, are members happy to vote en bloc, or do they want to vote separately? Councillor Cushing?
Can we please vote separately for items 4, 5 and 7, please?
Yeah, okay. For that? I need a.
Sorry, no.
I don't.
I think
I don't need a proposer for breaking them up.
yeah.
Okay, so we're going to vote on 1 and 2 separately. So do I have a proposer for that, for the items 1 and 2? Lovely. Okay, who's in favour of items 1 and 2? Okay, thank you very much. Then we're going to vote on items 4, 5 and 7 together. No?
6 and 8.
Okay, okay, it's the other way around. We're going to vote on 3, 6 and 8 together. Okay, do I have who's in favour of second of 3, 8 and 7? Okay, thank you. Of items 3, 8 and 7. 3, 6 and 8, sorry. Getting right old muddle here.
I think you know number 6 as well.
3, 6 and 8. Yeah, okay. In favour? Everything else? Okay. We now need a proposer for 4, 5 and 7.
Can we do 4, 5 and 7 on block as well?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, proposer for 4, 5 and 7 on block. Lovely, thank you very much. Okay, who's in favour of 4, 5 and 7? Okay, who's against? No abstentions. Good. Now we move on to item 13, fees and charges. Councillor Shiles, would you like to
I
introduce
would.
this item?
I'm obviously looking forward to the debate on this. So apologies for my premature excitement, I guess, in presenting the paper. So just to recap, I'm very aware that there was an omission in the published papers, which was rectified earlier today. The fees and charges haven't changed from when they were presented at Cabinet and Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And we need to make the addition, which was verbalised and wonderfully noted down with thanks to Emma for her diligence. And the addition to that is the provision of legal advice and services to third-party public sector organisations. And this will be at solicitor's hourly rate and is discretionary, so the fee will be set by the district.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about fees and charges? No? No debate? Okay. And we'll go to the vote then. Who's in favour of the paper on fees and charges, our proposals, including that last change? Unanimous? Lovely, thank you very much, members. You.
Thank you, Chairman. Certainly wish to propose the recommendations and thank officers for all of the work in considering the best locations for the next for the polling stations at the next election, whenever that may occur. But certainly also, time to reflect on some of those and comment please do that if there are further observations. Obviously, you know your wards very well. Please contact the Chief Executive as returning officer and the Electoral Services team as we move forward towards that next occurrence. So happy to propose the recommendations, and that's that. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you very much. I hope I put my microphone on, wouldn't it? All I need to do then is to thank you all very much indeed. Wish you a very happy Christmas and can't decide whether it should be prosperous or healthy the next new year. I think it should be both really. Probably not very peaceful. And if you'd like to join us for drinks in the canteen, we'd be